Trying to achieve dark pencil drawings is something that can be really frustrating, and if you've ever experimented before, you might have taken the pencil and pressed really hard into the sheet of paper and got that super reflective surface that none of us want, because it pretty much does the opposite of making our pencil drawings dark, right? It reflects everything and then you can't even see half the drawing. And it shows up even worse in photographs or on video. So what I want to do today is show you how to use graphite powder to achieve dark pencil drawings. Now, I know what you're thinking, I've heard of graphite powder before, but I have a faster, easier, cleaner way to do this than anything you've ever seen. Unless you just want to buy it already that way. Which I guess is an option, but this is a lot more fun. So let's dive into it, and remember, safety first. So let's talk about the supplies that you're gonna need. First, you're going to need graphite, right? So we're gonna turn sticks of graphite into powder. And the reason we're doing this is because it ends up being a lot easier for us to apply in a smoother, more even fashion. And it definitely helps when we're doing some shading and pencil drawing to have it as graphite powder, as opposed to a stick like this. Next we're gonna need is a sheet of drywall sandpaper. It feels a lot like your normal sandpaper, but the difference is that it has these big, huge holes that you can obviously easily see through that is gonna allow the graphite to fall through this and onto our paper or container. Then you'll need a container to store and save all your graphite powder so it doesn't just go flying everywhere. And the reason why we're doing this outside is because it can get super dusty.
All we are is dust in the wind, dude.
Right, so we're making powder and we don't want to be breathing any of this in or let it get all over our house, right? And the last thing you're gonna need is a drill. If you don't have a drill, it's okay. You can still do the traditional way of getting graphite powder. The drill is gonna help us with speed and cleanliness, and you'll see why here in just a second. The traditional way of making graphite powder is to use the sheet and to take the stick, and we're just gonna scrape it back and forth. And you can see how much powder that's already starting to make us. Super simple, super easy way. That's probably more than I would need for a lot of stuff, because if I take this all together, you can see the sheer amount of graphite powder it actually makes. And that's quite a bit. So then once you get your graphite powder, you're gonna wanna go ahead and store it. So we're gonna take this, fold our paper in half, and dump it on in here. Now we're gonna do the other way. So let's take the drill. We're gonna take our graphite stick and we're gonna put it in our drill, and some of it might fall off. My drill is actually a little bit too small, so kind of scrape some of that off. Then I'm gonna take the sanding paper, I'm gonna put it over my mason jar, take my stick, push it on top, and just start drilling. And in just a few seconds, I have so much more powder, and it's so much cleaner. It's all inside the mason jar. The other great thing is you can just keep using the same sheet over and over and over. It should last you quite some time. And I could probably get one of these whole graphite sticks done in a few minutes and have enough to last me a lifetime. Now that we have our graphite powder that we're ready to work with, I've gone ahead and changed mine from the big mason jar to a smaller container, which is this little makeup jar that my wife gave me right here. So you can pretty much use anything. I just recommend a little bit smaller container than the mason jar whenever you're going to end up applying this. This way you can actually get the different utensils inside of the jar without having to try and go all the way to the bottom of like a mason jar. Now, I went ahead and I also took everything out of the mason jar and I put it in a bigger makeup container. I think it's the same exact thing. My wife must order too much of this. I probably use it though. I just don't even know it.
Yep.
I put the entire amount of everything that I got from my mason jar into here. And this, I don't know when I'm going to end up using this up. This took, I think, 3 to 4 sticks, somewhere in between. It wasn't a full stick of any one of them because by the time you get really low on the drill, you end up with a little bit of stick left at the end. This isn't a full 4 sticks, but it's pretty darn close. And this took me about 20-25 minutes to get, but I don't think I am ever going to go through all of this. Like, I don't know, this might last me my whole life. It's insane. Now that I have everything inside of this, oh, you can see that that's not even an airtight container, or there was something left over because it got on the paper right here. So now that I have it in a smaller container that's more manageable, let's go ahead and give it a try. There are several different ways of applying graphite powder to the paper, and one of them are these makeup sponges. These little things are pretty cool. Now, so I'll go ahead and link everything in the description, but I just got, this was like a 6-pack of these guys. And you can see what it looked like before I started using it. But now that I actually have some graphite powder inside of this and used in it, it's gonna make actually making a lot smoother transitions easier, because it's already got some in there and it can end up laying down some graphite, not much. But as you can probably already kind of see here, it lays down a very smooth and even shade of that graphite. And if I want to use a little bit more, I just simply dip it in. Now I have actually a ton right there. And I recommend probably actually even tapping this off before you go to use it, because as soon as I do, you'll be able to see how much darker of a line that can go ahead and already make. You can end up using this layer after layer. You can end up pressing it more into the paper, but know that when you do press it more into the paper, it's going to get harder to erase. Some people I've seen actually take graphite powder and sort of apply this to their whole sheet of paper, and then they go in with either dark pencil and make even darker lines in here, or what they do is they go and use their erasers. And I've got an electric one right here, and this will help erase straight through that powder. Now what's really cool is that you can create lines like that in the powder that was applied this way, because I'm not really digging into the core of the paper. Another way that you can use graphite powder is with blending stumps. So same sort of thing, I can dab a little bit in there, I can go into my drawing, and I can start applying this. Now what you can see with the blending stump is that I am getting really, really dark right here with just a little bit of graphite powder on the end of this. Because I can apply more pressure, this is where it is going to start going more into the paper, but I'm able to kind of start to fill in a lot of those little paper grooves. Since this is powder, it can get in all those little nooks and crannies of the paper itself, and it can give me a really, really nice, dark, deep shade, which is so cool. That's why we love this powder. It is darker than any of our pencils, because our pencils typically only go up to 8B, whereas our graphite powder is one shade darker at 9B. We can only go as dark as 8B, and if I go ahead and use that on this paper, you can see that whenever I'm using this pencil, unless I'm pushing kind of hard in here, I'm not actually getting in all the little grooves of the paper. So I'm starting to see that texture come through, even if I'm applying a generous amount and pushing pretty decently. It's not until I push really hard that I can kind of get rid of all that. That's where we introduce that shine that we really just don't like in our drawings. And this graphite powder, although it will still produce shine, because graphite is innately reflective, it is going to end up reflecting on your paper no matter which way that you apply it. But what you're going to notice over time is that as I am applying softer and building up my layers, instead of pressing really hard into the sheet of paper, that is when I'm going to start getting the really dark shades without all that reflection, which is just absolutely awesome. And just like we had this for large areas, we actually also have smaller makeup brushes for smaller. So what I can do is dip it in my graphite, apply it right there, or a lot of times what I'll do is try and actually use what is on the paper already, so then I can use this to apply things in a lot nice, soft, delicate way. I can get a lot more precise and accurate. This graphite powder really is something else. It's a lot of fun to use. You can see I'm not even using my pencil over here. I'm just drawing with the powder, and only the powder. Creates a really nice soft effect. So if you've ever done photography, there's that term bokeh, where you get that really soft background. I'd imagine that if you wanted that same sort of look in drawing, that you'd be able to still do it. Something really soft like this, instead of trying to take a pencil and then make it very light and then coming in with blending stumps on top of pencil
and you're not going to achieve the same soft effect that you will as if you're using something like a makeup brush. Now my last and most favorite thing to use for blending all my drawings is toilet paper. I kid you not, toilet paper is my absolute favorite. A lot of people will use facial tissue, but I find that that's almost just too smooth. It doesn't end up picking up enough of the graphite. It doesn't apply it to the paper the way I like. It's just, I don't know, I prefer the texture of this soft toilet paper. And you'll see right here, again, I can dip some in here and apply. So if you don't have blending stumps, I highly recommend toilet paper.
In this next video, we're going to talk about paper and how it can affect your drawings and how dark your drawings actually get.
Dust. Wind. Dude.